pretty great, isn't she?
What?
She's really pretty great, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. Good luck, kid.
Did you really come here with Lloyd Dobler? How did that happen? He made me laugh.
I wanted to ask you, how'd you get Diane Court to go out with you?
I called her up.
The rain on my car is a baptism. The new me.
But how come it worked? I mean, like, what are you?
I'm Lloyd Dobler.
My father's guilty. He lied to me. He lied to everybody. I need you.
You do?
Everything else means nothing to me. If I hurt you again, I'll die. I love you.
What?
I love you. How many more times do I have to say it?
One more time would be nice.
Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Matt, and I'm here with Andrew today. We're going to be talking about Say Anything, the movie that made Cusack a true star, Lloyd and Diane's perfect coupling, and yes, that iconic boombox scene. So grab your popcorn and Reese's Pieces, and let's break it down on the Post Credit Podcast. I don't know. It was really weird. Did you finish it?
Really like it. Yeah.
Was it any good?
No, it's just really predictable. Yeah. Like, you could predict the way he's going to act. Wow. It just kind of hit you.
What did it kind of hit you?
Probiotics drink.
What do you mean it kind of hit you? You act like you just got like drunk off of probiotics.
Yeah, like billions of probiotics. I'm not a big fan of that. That doesn't taste good.
Well, you got a bunch of different little organisms in your mouth and your gut.
It's like snap, crackle, pop.
Yeah. Just imagine swallowing all these different little organisms.
It's good for your tummy. But have you watched Greenland yet?
No. Are you the one that posted that on our... Did you post that on our Facebook?
No.
It got posted on... It was a Facebook. Yeah, I got a Green Flake or whatever it's called. Greenland or Green Flake
Greenland?
or whatever.
The one with Gerard Butler?
I don't know. There was something that got posted on our thing, and I wasn't sure what it was. And it says it was posted by me, but I didn't do it, so I deleted it.
Oh, I watched the movie. I don't know if something got posted. That's weird.
It was really weird.
You haven't seen it though?
No.
It's an amazing movie. It really is.
I'm glad I looked though, because this is a crossword puzzle that I made for the teaser this week. I put it on our Facebook and our Twitter.
Yeah.
So it's the Post Credit Podcast Season 3 premiere. Welcome back, everybody. We're in season 3 now. This is the first of what we hope are going to be our normal length seasons. We're going to be doing a lot longer seasons now, not just the short ones. So get ready for a longer season. But on social media, I made a crossword puzzle, and we're going to go over questions and answers right now. But this is to guess. It gives you clues to guess what movie we're doing.
Okay.
So one down. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 letters, one down, 2 matching entities in Ghostbusters. The Gatekeeper and the Keymaster. There you go. So one down is Keymaster, right? Yeah. Lloyd Dobler's role when they went to the party. He had to be Keymaster, right? All right, so 2 down. It's 1, 2, 3, 5 letters. The base of justice, also base of organized play. See, I had to word these the way they do crossword clues because it's real vague when they do those. When you have you can have 2 different meanings for the same word.
The base of justice.
So it's the same word, but it has 2 different meanings. These are the 2 different meanings. One is the base of justice, and another also is the base of organized play, like maybe the floor of organized play or an organized
I have no clue.
Sport. What's Diane's last name?
Oh, Court.
There you go. So base of justice, base of organized play, court.
You could have said something like basketball and then
but
court.
That's not how crossword puzzles do it. They're very vague, and you get 2 different definitions for the same word type of thing, you know, and so it has to be
I don't even know what.
So court, Keymaster. This is telling people that, you know, giving people clues on what movie we're doing.
Yeah.
All right. So if you haven't guessed, we're doing Say Anything today.
It's my favorite movie.
Right, but we're just going over this to see if everybody got it wrong or everybody got it right. Okay, so this is 3 down, 3 letters. It's Meets. These are all movies: Meets Volcano, Mighty Young, and Meet Black.
Joe.
So Joe's the missing one, so that would be 3 down. And then 5 down is A Weapon in Gross Point Blank. The Sword is Inferior. 3 letters.
Knife.
What did he use as a weapon in Gross Point Blank?
It was a pen.
There you go.
Yeah.
So pen. Do I remember?
Yeah.
I gave her my heart.
Yeah.
She gave me a pen. The Keymaster, Court, Diane Court. Joe is who, what's her name's obsessed with. 4 across is 3, 7 letters, lofted overhead or upon the shoulder.
Raise your hand.
What people used to carry on their shoulders that played music or lofted above their heads.
Oh, a xylophone.
Boombox for 4 across. And then 6 across is new on the U.S. East Coast. Original is contained by coast. Starts with an E. New on the U.S. East Coast, but the original was contained by coasts.
I have no clue.
England.
Oh.
New England.
Yeah, I get it.
Anyways,
Okay.
I thought I was very proud of that.
I'm proud of you for
the
it.
clues
but
that I came up with,
Yeah.
and I was like, this sounds very crosswordy.
It's very crosswordy.
So, anyways, those were clues that were directing you to our season premiere this episode, which is Say Anything. Say Anything was a film. It came out in 1989. It was directed by Cameron Crowe. It was written by Cameron Crowe.
Yeah.
And it stars John Cusack.
This is his first movie, by the way.
Right? Well, not his first, like, John Cusack movie where he's the lead. Because, you know, he was in, was it Pretty in Pink or 16 Candles before this? I can't remember, but he was also in Better Off Dead and a couple others. But this is his first, like John Cusack type of movie, you know?
Well, it says it's the directorial debut.
Oh, you're talking about Cameron Crowe.
Yes,
I thought you
yes.
meant John Cusack's first.
Oh,
That's why I was
no,
saying, like,
no,
he was in,
no.
like, Pretty in Pink and whatever. He's also in Better Off Dead and everything. But, yeah, Cameron Crowe is his very first one. It stars John Cusack as Lloyd Dobler, Ione Skye as Diane Court, John Mahoney as James Court. Also stars Lily Taylor, Amy Brooks, Pamela Adlon, Jason Gould, Lauren Dean, a bunch of others. Jeremy Piven is also in this. I think it's just worth mentioning.
Yeah.
So, and this is your favorite movie, correct?
Correct.
How long has it been your favorite movie?
Oh, man. You know, I didn't watch this movie until I was in my 20s.
Really?
So it's been my favorite movie. It came out. It's been my favorite movie ever since. Because, like, before it was Walk the Line. I love that
I was
movie.
going to ask you what it was before this then.
It was Walk the Line. And when I watched this movie, I was just like, okay, this is my new favorite movie.
Wait, Walk the Line. What year was that? That was like 2010 or something like that.
Something
right?
like that, yeah.
So what was your favorite movie before that? Probably going back to like Varsity Blues. and different
Ninja
things
Turtles,
like that,
probably.
Yeah. I went to go to see Walk the Line. I was typing in Diane Court. I got Say Anything on the brain.
On the brain.
Walk the Line, 2005 is when that came out. So
since around there.
Yeah. So since around there. That's okay. All right. Well.
Yeah.
I really like this movie. This comes out at the tail end of the 80s, 1989.
Yep.
And it had a feeling of wrapping up the 80s to it. To me, it did.
Yeah.
Like especially when he packed up all at the end, and you know he's going with her to England and everything, and he turns up the music before and just like leaves his room. You know, leaves his sister there. I don't know. It just had a wrapping up of the 80s type of movies, you know, going into the 90s from there. That's what it felt like to me. Very,
I you know, and I said this before to you, you know, I felt like this movie touched extremely closely to being a rom-com.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like it's one of the first. really.
I wouldn't call it a rom-com though.
In that sense.
Like, I mean,
the high school. Okay,
I think
high
when,
school
when Harry Met
rom-com.
Sally came before this.
Well, that's what I'm saying. High school rom-com.
Yeah, but like Pretty in Pink and 16 Candles, they all came out before this. You know, this is more. I classify this as like this is just my opinion, but I classify this as more of a romance movie because there are very small bits of comedy, but they're not comedy coming from the characters. They're comedy coming from like the director, like in the way that he has Lily Taylor obsess about Joe. You know, that gets to be, it's kind of funny and everything, and it gets a little grating after a while. But, you know, there's not a lot of comedy to it. It's I think it's mainly just. It's definitely, I would say, one of the first, or at least the best, teen romance movies. Yeah. Flat out teen romance.
Well, it's weird because, you know, you see a character like Joan Cusack, right, in the movie.
Who didn't take a credit for this movie, by the way.
But, you know, you're used to seeing her doing some outlandish, just crazy comedy type roles. Like everything she does, that she always brings the comedy, I feel like, except for in this movie. Like
she was very straight-laced and normal.
Yeah, straight-laced and normal, and it's really weird seeing Joan Cusack act that way.
Yeah, you almost want to say it was overly normal, but it really wasn't. It was just normal. She was acting normal, but because she's so eccentric and a lot of the things that she does and just so out there.
That whole family is.
Yeah.
That whole family
is. But I mean, like John Cusack's tame a lot of the time. He
Yeah.
has like his little outburst of explosion or whatever.
Unless you watch Hot Tub Time Machine.
Which I haven't.
Which he is extremely not tame in that movie. He's like he's like John Cusack times 1,000.
Really? Because I thought he was more mellow in that. I thought he was more mellow in that movie.
When he gets the suitcase full of drugs, it just
I've never seen this movie.
Man, it's he has a suitcase full of drugs that he always carried with him. So they went back to the past, and he knew exactly where this suitcase full of drugs were.
Oh, jeez. All right. I might have to watch this this summer.
But, like, it was just weird seeing Joan Cusack, you know, I mean, because we did a podcast with her with a movie that she did with toys.
And she was in Grosse Point Blank.
And Grosse Point Blank. And
I think she's been, like, the most reoccurring person on the show.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, she's just so not straight-laced, not such a... I mean, just even her facial features and the way that she moves her face and stuff like that, you know, is just comedic timing, you know, it's perfect with her, you know. I mean, you get to that point where you're like, okay, who's the better actor between the two in reality? You know what I mean? Like, John Cusack's my favorite actor. I agree with him in acting. I think he's a great actor. I mean, he's a phenomenal actor.
Right.
But, you know, his sister is just up there too. You know, she's just that good. You know, she fits each role that she plays very well, even if it's a minor role, you know.
Yeah, like you said, you know, it's one of those things where we've seen Joan Cusack do so many things, and says, you know, her little outbursts and stuff, like, you know, like I'm fine,
yeah.
And then in Grosse Point Blank, where, you know, she's like woo, and she's like trashing the place with a hammer, and then she gets on the phone and she's like gets all serious and like gets all
like almost the funniest part of the whole movie is her, you know. Yeah.
No, I think we discussed that. It was like it's a rom-com, but the funniest part of that movie is Joan Cusack followed by Dan Aykroyd.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so this movie is slightly different. It has has more of a charming human quality to it. It's more realistic, I felt.
Yeah.
And that's why I enjoyed it so much. So what are your favorite parts about this movie? What makes it your favorite movie?
It starts about halfway through when well, no, actually more so at the beginning, you know, right after they get back to the party, when, you know, he's talking to her and she's getting out of the car and they, you know, you think they're going to kiss and then they end up hugging. And
when they get back from the party?
Yes. And where she goes inside, talks to her father.
She hugs him real awkwardly.
Yeah, she does. And so does he, though. So does he. It's all natural.
I have it in my notes. The way she hugged him after the date and the way his friends say that they would like Lloyd if they were Diane, those are my favorite parts.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way she hugged him like real awkwardly.
But when he goes in there or she goes in there and talks to her father and said, "Oh, I think I messed up. You know, I didn't react to him very much, the proper way. And then he says, really? And then he looks out the window and John Cusack's bowing out there.
Yeah.
That's my favorite scene.
That's right. Because I couldn't remember if she was upset about the way she responded to that.
Yeah, because, the way he did it, he did that whole bowing and everything else like that. And then, her smile at that scene was just, that's my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah. So this movie is about a couple different things, actually. I like movies. Sometimes I like movies without, if it's done right, I like movies without a main character. So, and what I mean by that is, like, oftentimes it isn't until the end that you figure out who the main character is. Yeah. So you have, like, a couple different people. Mm-hmm. And in this movie, you have, like, three main ones. You have Lloyd, you have the dad, and you have Diane and everything. And
it's like Can't Hardly Wait. That's what I said before, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I think some people can glean maybe certain main characters from that.
Yeah, like Seth Green.
Yeah, and same thing with this one. It's like, some people may say, well, it's Lloyd's movie, and other people say, well, it's Diane's movie. Yeah. And other people might say, well, it's one of theirs movies, but the dad has got a huge part in it too. Yeah. So I like movies that play out like that because it spends a lot of time giving everybody else besides the main character that background, that setup, that stuff to make you care about what's going on with their story. So that's really cool. I mean, a lot of movies, it's a juggling act trying to balance, how much time you spend with each character to make sure that you care about them and everything. Yeah. And I think it can be done bad, but it can be done well as well. Like, Paul Thomas Anderson. He has a lot of, different main characters, like in Magnolia or whatever.
Well, that's kind of like with when, Cameron Crowe, when he did Almost Famous, too. It was kind of like not really surrounded. I mean, it was surrounded around, the kid who was a writer. But at the same time, it was kind of, around the groupies, and things like that. So I think Cameron Crowe does this very well.
Yeah.
He does it very well. And I feel like he gets his actors to act so naturally in his films. Like, almost like, there's not necessarily lines that you're just, going with the feelings. You know what I mean? Because that's what Cameron Crowe's films are about, is feelings. You feel certain time periods in your life, you have certain feelings. And you feel a certain way at certain time periods in your life, just like with Almost Famous and Say Anything. that period in his life, he didn't really want, Lloyd didn't know what he wanted to be.
Yeah.
And just like with again, that takes a feeling. I mean, everybody was at that point, I think, in high school. Every once in a while, you had a couple people that were really sure of what they wanted to be and what they wanted to do. But, having that feeling, almost everybody goes through it.
Yeah.
Where you're just kind of, you don't know what you want to do. You're just kind of starting off in life.
Yeah, it's more human. It's before this you had your Porky's, your 16 Candles, your Fast Times,
Breakfast
all
Club,
these different types of things where a lot of it's very Hollywood. Whereas I feel like Cameron Crowe's are more human,
Yeah.
He uses takes where there's like mistakes in it, or they fumble over words,
like the
or
hugging scene
or something like that. Whereas Hollywood would usually take those out because it's not a perfect scene. It's not exactly how the director wanted it to go. Cameron Crowe uses those scenes because it's more real, because we're not perfect in our everyday lives. We trip over things when we're walking. We trip over our own words. We stumble with what we want to say and everything like that. So, I think it's just unique the way that he plans everything out. And I think, are we ever going to talk about Almost Famous?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Probably not.
I don't know.
I mean, maybe.
I think that would probably be the better time to talk about Cameron Crowe.
Yeah.
Because, if anybody knows about Cameron Crowe, that Almost Famous movie is kind of a semi-autobiographical account of his days when he wrote for Rolling Stone when he was 15. He, and after that, he of course, went back to high school, authored a book that Fast Times was based on.
Yeah.
You know, he he provided the liner notes for Bob Dylan's then the Biograph in 1985. You know, all these different things that he's done. He's done a lot of things, and Almost Famous is based on that. But and the characters are pretty close and Almost Famous to this one. But in Almost Famous, it's kind of like enjoying the risque nature of the life that they were in and all that kind of stuff, whereas Lloyd is more wholesome and endearing.
He's more wholesome and endearing, and we can get into that why he is. I mean, you know, you figure he's very, you know, the male taking care of the, you know, his lady and all that other kind of stuff, you know, and it probably stems from a lot of him being raised by his sister and, you know, having only girlfriends.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
And I think that drives him to be kind of the person that he is, you know, and I feel like, you know, he doesn't really talk about his parents. I mean, he kind of makes a joke at the beginning of it about, you know, them supposed to be at his graduation and they send their love kind of situation where from Germany because his dad's in the army or something. And
yeah, but they're not like pissed about it. They're not traumatized by it. They're just mom and dad are over there and everything, but you know, they're moving on with their lives, I think.
But he does apologize to his sister, you know, about having a, you know, he's like, I'll go, you know, if you don't want me to, you know, I'm sorry that you have to raise me and all this other stuff at the near the beginning. When
yeah,
saying that.
Something like that. Yeah. But I mean, I think, you know, it doesn't make a huge deal about the parents being gone. There, you know, he's with his sister who's an adult and has a kid and all this kind of stuff. So,
and did you see at the beginning of the scene or the beginning of the movie where she's talking to him and she's straight up telling him, saying, "Hey, look, you know, I need you to be his uncle, not his friend." You know? And if you think about it, and that's when he says, you know, I'm not Tim, you know, I'm not TIM. I can't, you know, I'm not the one that's doing this to you. I'm not the one that's making you feel this way, you know, that kind of thing. And you know, he's, you know, that's kind of like the uncle's job in a way. You know what I mean? Like I expect you, you know, to be the adult around my kids, but at the same time, you know, it's the fun uncle or, you know, whatever. You know what I mean? And so she just seriously, you know, there was that backstory there that we didn't really get anything into. Not that it would have been interesting if we did, really, but Joan Cusack's backstory about, you know, why she's a single mother, you know, raising basically her brother and her son at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a cool dynamic, I think, between the two. And, you know, when you say, I need you to be his uncle, not his friend, it's like, well, that's what exactly. Uncles do.
That's what I was trying to say.
You know, uncles are the fun people that, you know, it's like, oh, you want a little extra candy? You want me to throw you in the air? You want me to teach you how to
kickbox?
Yeah, I'd force you to go on dangerous, you know, theme park rides, or you know, buy you junk food or whatever it is. You know, that's what, you know, uncles, you know, they like to be the fun uncle or the fun aunt or whatever. But you know, for us, it was fun Aunt Jerry.
Oh yeah,
as opposed to an uncle and everything. But but yeah, you know, this movie, as we said, it's a lot more human. Little things from Cameron Crowe, you know, how the letter that he sends her is just real simple. I'll always be there for you. Yeah, you know, that type of thing. How she sits, if you notice when they're driving, you know, they have their seats and everything, but she sits in the middle because she's comforted by him. Yeah. You know, and so she sits closer to him. In a normal movie, you'd have like a perfect shot of like, okay, the windshield is centered on the screen. You have one on this side of the screen, one on that side of the screen, so that it feels even. But this one, it's closer. It's, you know,
more realistic.
Zoomed in, closed up. She's scooted over into the middle seat, different things like that. Her air quotes that are real half-hearted when she says "I love you," you know, everything like that. You know, the pen, you know, the screaming in commercials part. You know, every once in a while you can hear me screaming in commercials and stuff. So you know, you just have these little tiny nuances, the little things in there where it's telling stories. I mean, because that's what life is about, is all the little tiny details that you may overlook or you miss or whatever. But in movies, it's like, you know, you have these big things here and there, but you don't get into the details a lot. So
yeah, and you know, like when she says, she's talking to her dad, right? And it's very hard to tell, as a girl, I'm sure, especially, but, tell your father, hey, he asked what you guys did that night, and she said, well, he wanted to, but we said no.
She's very honest with her dad.
Yes, and then all of a sudden she said, well, then I turned around and ravaged him, that kind of thing.
There's 2 times in this movie where they have you seen the videos on YouTube or TikTok or whatever? It's the moment when people die inside.
Yeah.
So there's 2 moments like that for Diane's dad in this movie. One is where she's like, I decided I didn't want to do it, and then he's like, okay, has this look of relief wash over his face, and she's like, and then I changed my mind and jumped on him or whatever it was, and then he has this look like, oh gosh. And then at the end of the movie, when John Cusack's talking to him in the prison, and he's saying, well, she needs to go off, I think she needs to go off on her own, and I'm on my own path and everything. He's like, oh good. And then he's like, but then I decided to go with her anyways.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my god. He keeps getting the rug pulled out from him.
And then also when she hands him the pen, in that same scene, where she hands him the pen,
that was rough.
Says, write me, that's another one where his heart probably went, oh.
Yeah, because that was like, oh, she just threw that back in my face.
Yeah, and that's a very iconic scene in a movie as well. I mean, it's rated number 73 on the charts for the most
iconic scenes or whatever.
Yeah, iconic movie.
The pen part or the boombox part?
The pen part.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think it's the most iconic.
Her giving him the pen, or Lloyd saying, I gave her my heart and she gave me a pen?
The second one, the latter, yeah. 100 Greatest Movie Lines by Premiere in 2007.
Yeah, this has
number 73.
Such great lines in this movie.
It really
too.
does.
But for those that don't know what we're talking about, we'll get into it. So this movie is about a guy named Lloyd Dobler. Now, John Cusack didn't want to do this movie because he had already done a bunch of teen movies, and he's like, I don't want to graduate again. Yeah. I've done so many graduating in movies and stuff. I don't want to do it again. But Cameron Crowe and John Mahoney convinced him to look at the script, and Cameron Crowe's like, and I don't know if Cameron Crowe would ever do this with any other actor. Maybe that's just because he was first starting out. But he's like, we can talk over the script, change some things and all that kind of stuff. Tailor it more to John Cusack, but he wanted John Cusack really bad because he's like, this part is perfect for John Cusack. So Cusack's basically like, well, I might as well end this time in my life, this time in my career on a high note and do something like that, put a good cap on it, and then I can move on to more adult movies and everything. And this will be like my graduation from teen movies to serious movies.
Which kind of breaks down to, in all reality, I'm sure, again, this is probably my opinion, but, this is probably his greatest movie. I mean, and that's just,
I know
my
it's
opinion.
your favorite, yeah.
Yeah, it's my favorite movie, but it's also, I feel like it was his, it's what everybody knows him from, not anybody born in probably the last 30 years, but
people our age, they definitely know.
Mostly involve robots and aging silent movies.
That was weird.
What did you ask Siri?
I have no clue.
Something about robots and silent movies.
That's very strange.
We should make a silent movie, a robot silent movie.
That would be weird. I'm sure they have done that, though.
Yeah, I'm sure. So basically, John Cusack plays a guy named Lloyd Dobler. Now, Lloyd Dobler's been in love with Diane Court, played by Ione Skye, for how long? Probably a good while.
Yeah, and he has this thing where he thinks they were on a date.
Yeah, when they ate in the
she
food
apparently
court.
remembers it, too, so I guess.
She does remember it?
Yeah, she does say that she said... Or it wasn't it like
I don't think she remembers it.
Maybe she said yes, and then he yeah, that's right, because he asked her about it, but she knew who he was, but it wasn't like
well, she had to, when she hung up with him, she had to look up the yearbook to see who he was.
That's right.
But I mean,
I
like
think she remembers it maybe.
Yeah, she ate at a food court, and he was probably there stalking her, and
yeah.
And so he went and got food and purposely ate at a table right across from her so he could pretend like they were eating together.
Do you think he meant?
So yeah, borders on creepy a little bit.
And I think it was like, okay, they're both about to graduate and things like that, and she could be going off to anywhere, and they did find out that she was in the paper, because they brought it up, but he was trying to make his last stand, and he just figured, what better time than now, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, it's a reversal between who Lloyd is and who Diane is for normal movies, because usually you have, or like a She's All That, or not a She's All That. That She's All That actually kind of follows to Say Anything, but everything else,
Yeah.
you know, usually you have a nerdy guy or an unpopular guy going off after the popular girl, right?
Yeah.
And
But just like the classic line from this movie as well, you know, she what'd they say, she had the body of a weather girl or something, and she's brainy or something like that.
I don't remember, but that's the point I was getting at was, you know, she's not like the she's the valedictorian, but you know, she's not like the class president, the captain of the cheerleading squad, and you know,
she's a brain,
the most popular girl in school. It's this other guy who's somewhat popular going after this other girl. Now she's not unpopular. She's actually very popular, but she's more not notorious. But
she is known, but she is known as kind of like that woman on the pedestal kind of thing, where it's like
she's more infamous for being a brain.
Yeah, a brain, but at the same, but like they were saying in the line, you know, the body of a beauty, you know, but the brains of a
just
a
the
genius
looks,
or something.
you know, yeah. Like I mean, she's beautiful. And she could be one of those girls at the top tier and everything, but she went this other way where she was a bookworm. And now, you know, like she was popular, people wanted to date her, but people were too intimidated because she's so smart and everything. And they were like, well, I don't know how to even deal with a girl like that. So nobody even really tried, I don't think. It wasn't the typical thing where she had a boyfriend and she broke up on graduation day. She just was always in her studies.
Well, if you notice, like, it wasn't like anybody didn't try, because they just tried, but they just waited a little bit longer than Lloyd did.
Academia was her boyfriend.
Yeah. but you notice, like, even that guy at the party, he's like, how'd you do it? You know, like, both of them were asking, you know, all these people at this party were asking each other, you know, Diane and Lloyd's characters, you know, they were asking him, saying, hey, how did you land Lloyd, and how did you land Diane? And it was like,
not land Lloyd, like, why are you here with Lloyd?
Yeah.
But how did you get with Diane?
Yes. But it was just like a taboo thing. Like nobody thought that this would be a good fit, I guess, in a way, you know, and even it just seemed kind of like a lot of things were trying to attack them, you know what I mean? You know, and try to prevent this from happening. And that's why it's a great love story, because, you know, no matter what anybody tried, you know, even each other were trying to sabotage it, you know, neither, you know, they still ended up together, basically.
Well, and the difference between this and the others, you know, it's what do they say at the end? It's what are the things that they're saying? Nobody thinks it'll work. You know, nobody thinks we'll work. Nobody thinks that we're gonna make it. Blah 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 blah. And he just goes, you know, you just described every success, you know, story. Ever.
Yeah.
Which
is right.
Which is a great line.
It is a great
line. It's like, oh, you know, nobody says we're gonna make it. We're gonna fail. You just described every successful success story, because that's what they were told too.
Yeah.
So he's a very positive guy.
Well, if you
hugely
notice,
positive guy.
You notice that there was a lot of misplacement as far as the time frame for this movie, because, you know, they were talking about how, you know, they were at the graduate. It starts out, you know, with them at the graduation, right?
Right.
Then they go to the after party
before the graduation.
Yeah. And then at the after party, and then they talk about how, you know, they kind of almost imply that they still have got some more school left, in a way. Like, it's not going to be literally the last time they're going to see him.
Well, I think, you know,
they maybe have a week or two left or something like that. You know?
And I think back in the 80s, there was a big thing to, like, you know, graduate and then go do some fun things before you start buckling down.
Yeah, like having the ceremony first, and then, you know, having you know, the actual last days of school.
I never got that they were having more school. I don't know if that was in there. Maybe I missed it, but I never. I think it was more just, you know, we have a little bit of time in summer to hang out type of thing. Yeah. But, you know, like I said, you know, the reversal between those, you know, you have and Lloyd is so well liked by everybody. He's not like the popular guy, but he's just one of these. Excuse me. He's just one of these guys that, like, everybody is a fan of. Everybody likes it, and it actually starts to helped to endear him to
Yeah.
Diane. You know, I love the development between the two because, you know, obviously they graduate. She has a speech. She kind of flubs a line that she thought was going to be hilarious and that her dad told her was
the only
hilarious.
one that was laughing.
And, you know, it's just kind of like, oh, that's a great line. And she drops the line. So she's very sheltered. She's very much only knows the world that her dad has created for her.
Yeah.
So as you begin to see, he's a very loving dad, you see at the beginning. But it's gotten to the point now where it's kind of... it's almost like, you know, he's built a world, a little bubble around her. He lets her go out and do things and everything, but I mean, he's built this bubble around her and let her believe certain things so that you know, he can kind of keep her under his thumb.
Yeah.
So
well, and
she's
it's the
very
same
naive.
way. But they're both kind of naive in a way, you know, because he's naive in the sense that he thinks he will always get away, and he saved that money for her. He says, you know, so he's naive, thinking that he's going to get away with
what he's trying to get away with.
Yeah. Where she's very naive because, you know, they basically only had each other. You could tell that, you know, for many, many years, it was just them two.
Right.
You know, it was just, you know, him, you know, throwing little dinner parties.
What was
and
it, 12 years old? And
yeah,
she had
and
to pick him.
And she asked, you know, he's like, why'd you pick me? You know, or you picked me, you know, and all this other stuff. And it was like, it's always been them two. And they're both naive people to the world. You know, I mean, she's very naive. She admits it right at the beginning of the movie that she's naive in the sense that she doesn't know, you know, what it's like to hang out with people and go to parties and high school things, do things outside of academically, you know, speaking of academics, you know, that outside of academics, she knows nothing of the world,
right?
You know, and so this is kind of, that's why when you said, you know, you can't really say who's the main character.
She even said, like, I kept everybody at a distance this whole time.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, you know, why you got two main characters in a way, you know, because it's kind of her, you know, coming out to the world and saying, hey, she's just a normal person. You know, her peers should look at her just as a normal kid that's in school that just has very good grades and is going very far in life, you know, kind of situation. And for him, it's kind of him taking his last shot of, you know, of something he really, really wants, because he doesn't know what he wants beyond Diane Court. Right. You know, and we realize that in the movie because he ends up following her, you know, to England. Because he doesn't know what he wants for himself, but he does know he wants Diane Court. And so that's really his driving force. You know, he knows that he doesn't know what he wants to do with his life, but he does know that he wants to be with Diane Court. Where she knew exactly what she wanted, but she didn't. She thought she knew exactly what she wanted. And she thought that everything was just falling in place for her. Where in, you know, with the situation with her dad and meeting Lloyd, you know, everything just got kind of thrown up in the air.
You just blew through the whole movie.
Well, no, I was just trying to do the correlation.
No. I completely agree with everything you said. Okay, so she does her speech and everything, and she thinks it's going to be funny because her dad, you know, you can see when they're talking in the car, it's not like a normal dad-daughter relationship where, you know, typically the daughter's like embarrassed about anything the dad says or disagrees, like, oh, this isn't cool. And the dad says, oh, yeah, it's cool. The daughter would be like, whatever, you don't know what you're talking about, Dad. But I mean, like, these two, it was like, really? You think it's good? You know, and it's like, she doesn't understand that there's a disconnect between certain aged adults and teenagers, and that it's not going to click. Everything's not going to click. So, yeah, of course, she tries to tell some jokes, and it doesn't really click. And, you know, she's kind of realizing that, you know, the world's not as easy as her dad laid it out to be for her.
Well, and plus her father doesn't really. I feel like, you know, he doesn't need to, because, you know, she's always been his perfect little angel kind of situation, you know. But, you know, he doesn't ever really get mad at her. He didn't get upset with her, you know. I'm sorry, but
she doesn't argue with him.
Yeah, and exactly. So there's no conflict there,
right?
You know, and
which you would have
conflict
with any teenager.
Oh, any teenager, you know, especially, you know, a single father.
Yeah,
you know,
this shows how basically
girl.
Yeah, this shows how basically like sheltered he's made it for her, to where she lives in this bubble that like she doesn't live in this real world, and everything that she experiences with Lloyd from here on out is like this brand new thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, she has this. She's waiting to hear about the scholarship for this program in England that she wants to do. It never really. I don't think it really says what she'd be majoring in or anything like that. But it's just like this huge opportunity to go and join this thing in England and make a good career, make lots of money.
Yeah, and you know, with the father, you know, he just doesn't. No matter what she does, I'm sorry if my daughter came home at like 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning, I'd probably flip out. But
that being said, they're graduated. They're probably 18 by now, so it might be like a different thing. Like
my house, my rules.
I know, but it's just a different thing. Like back then, it was probably a little bit of a different time as well because it's back in the 80s and everything.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those. You know, he's so assured on how he has her locked down.
Okay.
That he doesn't
I
think
can see that
there's going to be any problems with her, because even when she does come home, he's not really fazed by it. I think he only gets upset one time, and that's towards the end. But I think that's more because he's dealing with his legal issues, and they've started mounting up now, and he's stressed about that and everything. But he tells everybody. He tells his sister, who's a little bit more encouraging than his friends. Lloyd tells his 3 girlfriends, and we don't see him having any friends that are guys. You see 1 or 2 people. You see the Keymaster, the original Keymaster dude, played by Eric Stoltz, and you see Jeremy Piven's character, but that's really it. You know, you have people that know him, but it seems like his best friends are the girls.
Yeah. Well, and even though with his best friends, it doesn't seem like they're super close either, in a way.
What do you mean?
You know, I mean, he goes over there and hangs out with them, but it's like, half the movie we're seeing those 2 girls just hang out together. You know what I mean? Have little side conversations and, talk about Lloyd and whatever, and Joe or whatever. But you see a lot of scenes that he's not even included in their friendship get together, and I kind of feel like maybe they're just friends because they're a lot alike, maybe, or something. I don't know. I just don't see them as being, like even the Jeremy Piven and those group of guys seemed a lot more friendlier and more like friends than John Cusack did or Lloyd did with his.
I don't know. He like the dudes at the party, Jeremy Piven and all that kind of stuff. He really
he's
kind of like dealing with him like an annoying little brother or something. He was drunk, whatever and everything. Joe, obviously he's not a huge fan of Joe because he has this friend who's hurt and everything. And he even says afterwards, he's like, yeah, that was a bad idea. Like, basically, these guys don't know what the hell they're talking about and everything. But I think that's what, we talked about it earlier.
Well, I guess, yeah, he did defend his friend, in that sense. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of a on the checklist of what, states as a friend. You know what I mean? So I guess, defending, telling Joe not to go over there. But it was almost like, maybe he was kind of telling Joe not to go over there for his sake as well, in a way.
I don't know. It may have been. It's just maybe. It probably just depends on how you see the movie. I don't see him friends with those guys at all. I think that he is annoyed with them, and when Diane breaks up with him and he doesn't know what to do, he's like, okay, well, these guys always, let me. I see it as I don't know these guys very well. Let me see what they would do, and then he goes he's like, okay, that was a bad idea.
Yeah, because they're like, yeah, you just have to be single, and he said, well, explain to me this.
You guys are all single.
You guys are all single, and you're here at this gas station at what time in the morning? Like 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that. Yeah, and there are no girls, and they're like, well, and then I think that's when we get into Jeremy Piven's little
it says
very depressing
like you gotta,
speech.
Yeah, you gotta have the experience. You gotta, anyways. But yeah, but it's I really like that the girls don't bully him. The friends that are girls, they don't give him crap.
Yeah,
they're very supportive, and it shows that like he understands women really well, maybe because of being friends with them, and so he knows how to be mature. He knows how to be respectful without going overboard, without trying to control her or whatever it may be. I mean, he leaves her alone at the party, and she even makes mention of it. So anyways, he finally gets up the courage to call her dad, and then, tell her, I really want to go out with her. This is, he's just like rambling.
Yeah. And
the dad's kind of like, okay, whatever. Let me just take this message. And you could tell the dad's kind of just like not really got time for it or whatever. And then as he's about to hang up, Lloyd's like, she's really great, isn't she? He ends it like that. And it makes the dad smile, and he's like, yeah, she really is. And he hangs up. And he probably didn't hear that from all the other guys that called. They just want to sleep with her.
But that's so
whatever.
Classic John Cusack line. That's something John Cusack and only John Cusack would say. Something, instead of saying, all right, sir, getting nervous, he was almost talking to like the dad, like, he was a buddy or something. You know what I mean? He wasn't talking to him. I mean, he called him sir, things like that. But at the same time, I don't know if I'd have the guts to say that at the end of a conversation if I was calling a girl's father. You know what I mean? Just straight up tell him, she's really great. It's like, well, that's her dad. Of course, her dad probably thinks she's more than just really great. You know what I mean? And it's just classic John Cusack. John Cusack says stuff like that in his movies. So I don't think that was a Cameron Crowe. Writing.
Probably, yeah. It was probably all John Cusack because just adding that one little dig in there and everything, and so of course he's at the top of the list, and she's excited because she's got this England thing now, and so she looks at the list and calls Lloyd back, kind of weirded out by him and everything. She looks real weirded out, and then she hangs up and she has to look in the yearbook to see and she wasn't impressed when she saw him. She looked, she found him, and she kind of looks up like, ugh.
Well, and this is after, she bombs it at the graduation ceremony with her speech and everything else like that, even though she's getting a lot of compliments, but it was a bunch of guys that are trying to hook up with her,
Right, they just want to hook up.
Yeah, but, she bombed the speech, and then, she had that conversation with her dad saying basically, because she did so well in school, she kind of disregarded, what it's like to be in high school. You know what I mean? And the experience of it all. And I feel like, that's why she called Lloyd because, well, I mean, that's why she probably liked Lloyd in a way because he was, she probably knew who he was. I mean, she did have to look in the yearbook, but she automatically knew when she saw him. Yeah. It's kind of like, she's like, hey, maybe this guy, maybe I can get a little last bit of attention from, something besides books before I leave off to London or something.
No, because remember what happened. Why they said, why did you come with Lloyd? And what did she say?
Like,
he made me laugh.
That's right.
Because when they were on the phone, he was going on. He was being his eccentric self, and she giggled. She laughed a little bit and everything. And I'm sure she's used to either guys hitting on her, not knowing what it means or whatever, because she's so naive and everything. But it came off to me to where it was like a different phone call than or a different conversation with a guy that she's used to having. Yeah. And so she's like, sure, let's go. Yeah. Why not? And so when people ask her, she's like, it wasn't until afterwards she looked and she's like, oh gosh. And she's like, well, at least he made me laugh, And it was one of those things where it was probably people hitting on her all the time. And she's like, I just want to focus on my studies.
Yeah, he's the trench coat guy. But nobody wears all the trench coats.
Yeah, nobody ever thought to genuinely make her laugh. And I'm not talking like potty jokes and just being raucous humor.
But again, that's what's great, I think, about this movie too, is that Cameron Crowe got somebody like John Cusack, who probably acts like this in real life. I can almost guarantee it. I don't know the man. I've never met him. I've never even really seen interviews with the guy. Mm-hmm. But you kind of feel like he's actually that eccentric in real life. Yeah. Because his sister's the same way. And you can't have both of them acting the same exact way and not have a little bit of that arty in them. You know what I mean? And that's why I think that's why it was so brilliant with casting John Cusack, because he does do quirky things and he's very eccentric and things like that. That's why he fit this role so well, I feel.
Yeah. Can we talk about this party?
The Can't Hardly Wait party?
Because if you notice, this party is different in this movie than it is in all other movies.
Okay.
What usually happens in teen movies at parties? It's usually something bad.
Yeah.
Always. I mean, in She's All That, they had that party and, she got made fun of and it was kind of a bad thing. Yeah. In Varsity Blues, it was Mox having to deal with what's her name and the one dude had to go to jail and all this kind of stuff.
Teeter was...
and then in 10 Things I Hate About You, at the end of the party, she does the dancing and everything, and then he doesn't kiss her, and then they, break up for a while and everything. So it's always usually like you have this big epic party where you think something's good's going to happen and bad stuff happens. Yeah. What I like about this is that this is actually something good that happens, and it might be like one of my favorite parts about the movie. Because it develops him, and it's so real between developing these two. You know, she didn't know who he was. She looked in the yearbook, wasn't impressed, ditched him at the party. You know, eventually she had some friends come over and it's like, why are you with Lloyd Dobler? Come on, we can find you somebody better than Lloyd Dobler. Let's go. But along the way, he endears himself to her by being funny, being respectful, not approaching her again until she looked ready.
Just kind of watching her from a distance.
But still watching over, right, as he promised his father he would. I won't let anything happen to her. And she even mentions, whenever she's talking to Lily Taylor, John Cusack's friend who plays Corey, one's always talking about Joe, you know, she even mentions, you know, he keeps checking up on me. You know, he'll be walking her because he's the Keymaster, so he has to stay sober. Yeah. That's another thing that probably endears him to her because he's responsible like her dad and everything. You know, not like her dad.
So what you saying? Yeah, I was about to say what you're saying. She got daddy issues. That's her
maybe not like her dad, but I mean, like she sees that he's responsible. He's kind. He's willing to not go, you know, be this jackass who goes and drinks and everything. He's keeping everybody else safe. You know, he's the fact that he's willing to be the Keymaster, stay sober. And then it seems that, you know, though he's not necessarily popular, he's extremely liked by everyone, and you know, almost acts. You know, as someone they all look up to, basically. Yeah. So slowly over the night, you know, she's like, you know, she even sees him through the party, and he looks and kind of waves awkwardly, and she kind of rolls her eyes and turns away. It's like, oh gosh. But then, you know, more and more people start talking about it, and you know, by the end of the party, she's completely at ease with him and just goes along with him. Yeah. You know, she's you know, they're we got one more key. Let's go find out who this key belongs to. When before she was just trying to stay away from him. Now she's like, you know, doing this thing with him. And they take the guy home, and like we said, we talked about how she awkwardly hugged him after that and went in, and she was just like, she didn't expect to get attached to somebody like that, to have those feelings. You know, I think that it, excuse me, I think that it leads her to begin to accept that other things that she wouldn't considered might have the same positive effect.
And we also see in this movie where it's different from a lot of movies too, in the fact that, you know, it's almost like the male character in the movie, the main male character, is somehow changed by meeting this person and getting a chance with them. You know what I mean? Where with him, he's always been like that. Just like you were saying, you know, I was the Keymaster. You know, he's been the Keymaster. You know, it wasn't something that he was doing to make himself look good in front of her. He wasn't trying to change her opinion about him. You know, throughout the whole movie, he was just being himself. And that's what you don't see in a lot of these type of romance or rom-coms, let's say, you know, these high school type dramas, is that it's always like, you know, these main male characters have this revelation that changes something about them and maybe the obsession about that other person. But with him, he was always like this. You know,
I think he's always been that guy, but he, like, being with her makes him try.
Yeah,
in life in general, or whatever but
it
is.
Not really, though, if you think about it, because even when her father, you know, if you're trying to impress a girl's father, right?
But no, but I mean that doesn't break his honesty. Like,
no.
Obviously, he's always going to be honest. So when she asks him, he's going to be like, "I'm going to be completely honest with you. Yeah. I don't know."
Right,
and everything. So I think he's honest. So he's going to be completely honest whenever he's asked about that. But he's still trying. He still wants to do well with her father when he picks her up. I just want you to know, sir, blah, 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 blah. You know, I'm a kickboxer, so she's going to be safe in my hands. I won't let anything happen to her. You know, he's really trying and everything, where usually he's just kind of
he's like, it's a new sport, you know, because the guy was like, kickboxing. What is
he's
that?
like, it's officially been recognized.
You put gloves
by,
on your feet, you know.
What was it recognized by? I can't remember. But
I didn't realize that kickboxing, like in America, I'm sure, but hadn't been around that long. Like, you know, since the 80s or whatever, because he was saying it's a new sport, it's a new thing.
It's probably
you know,
why Jean-Claude Van Damme's movie took off so fast, because people are like, "Whoa, what is this kicking stuff?"
Yeah, but he is actually a kickboxer, you know.
Yeah,
but I just think with Lloyd, you know, if I'm trying to impress a girl, I'm not saying lie about it, but I'm gonna come up with a better excuse of, no, I have no plans for my life.
Yeah, but that's not Lloyd. You know, Lloyd's just like, he's gonna be. I think he sees something special in his honesty, to where, like, he thinks that it'll impress her dad to be upfront and honest with him.
Yeah.
And obviously it doesn't, because her dad is just like, that doesn't make any sense or whatever. But in Lloyd's mind, it's like, as long as I'm an honest person and I'm a stand-up guy, this guy should like me for his daughter.
And it's a double-edged sword with him too, because he might not know what he wants to be in life, but he knows who he is in life. And that's with her problem. She knows what she wants to do with her life, but she doesn't know who she is.
That's a good juxtaposition. I didn't even think about that. So he knows what he wants to be. He just doesn't know what he wants to do. She knows what she wants to do, but she doesn't know who she wants to be.
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
so he's very confident.
She's got the focus academically in life for a career and knows what she's doing there, but her social skills are crap, and she doesn't know who she wants to be as a person.
Yes.
Now that she has to be by herself. Whereas he is completely confident in who he is, what he's doing. This is who I am. I'm not changing. I've grown and matured. The only thing that that's good. I like those weaknesses.
And look how they grew up, though. Her father had been telling her,
helicopter dad.
Yeah, her father had been telling her who she should be her entire life. He didn't have parents to sit there and tell him who he should be as a person.
Yeah, they were in the military, so they're always away. They're in the army or whatever. They're always away.
And his sister really is just kind of letting him basically live in her house, really not having any kind of discipline.
So it's that fine line between letting your kids be who they be, but then also trying to give them direction.
And we call that nature versus nurture.
Yeah, and the fine line of parenting and all that kind of stuff.
But I mean, it's very obvious thing where with her, she knows she's probably her and her father got together when she was 11 years old and mapped out her academic career and life, right? But her father, being a father of a daughter, and I have plenty of experience with this,
right,
and will continue to have experience with this. But having a father with a daughter, it's hard to teach your daughter how to be a woman if you're not a woman. Okay, if you're a man, it's very hard for that father to teach her how to be a woman and what she should be as a woman.
I think she was already like that before her drive and everything. As far as you saying the mapping of it, I think she was already that way because she said that it made more sense to go with her dad. Like, I felt safe that way. For some reason, it made more sense.
It's daddy issues.
But I mean, I think because her mom's really not existent in her life.
Yeah.
So I think
we hear nothing of her.
Yeah. So I think she sensed at a young age that her mom wasn't really all about her.
Yeah.
And her dad was completely about her.
Yeah.
To the point where he's going to embezzle money to make sure she has a good future and all that. What I wanted to say is that by the end of the party, she's completely at ease and just goes along with him. This leads her to begin to accept that other things that she wouldn't have considered might have the same positive effect, because she didn't consider, anybody like Lloyd Dobler, boys in general.
Yeah.
But now this Lloyd Dobler, she looks up as a picture, is like,
she tells him no right at first. Right at first when he asks her to go out, she says no.
I got things to do. What are you doing on Friday? Oh, I got this. What are you doing Saturday? I got things to do around the house. It's like, so you're basically perpetually busy, that type of thing. So she finally did. But so she didn't consider him. She didn't want to consider him. But she finally went out on a limb, went out with the guy, ended up having a great time, ended up being very endeared to this guy and having a connection with him, and thinks, okay, well, maybe if I do other things that are outside of my comfort zone or whatever, maybe that's that same positive effect. I think that's when she begins to consider her father as maybe not what she thought, especially with these agents around and everything, people investigating him, that she wants to wait for England. She said she wanted to wait a year so she can experience more of this life thing before she has to grow up. And when she goes back to doing what she's told by her father, breaking up Lloyd, doing all this kind of stuff, she is extremely unhappy and depressed because now she's had a taste of
life,
getting out of my own bubble, getting out into the world and doing stuff. Right. So I think it shows that, in your comfort zone is okay for certain things, but it's going to be detrimental if you don't get out there and experience things. And once you have experienced those things, it's going to be hard to put that genie back in the bottle, because now you know what it feels like to have that connection with somebody. And now I'm extremely unhappy and depressed but obviously that doesn't happen till later.
Well, and you also see, John Cusack is the exact opposite of her father. And they say that, a lot of women tend to marry their father, but he's the literal epitome of exactly everything different from her father. I mean, there's no similarities besides the love for Diane. There's no similarities between the two, because he keeps nothing but secrets. Yeah. Her father does, where Lloyd has no secrets. He tells everybody and anybody that'll listen his whole life story if he could.
Right.
So it's that whole thing with the secrets, and that's why I think, I feel like she was more heartbroken about that. The fact that he lied to her, not what he was doing so much, because in a way she probably thought like, okay, well, he's doing it for a reason. He's doing it to take care of me, and that's what she wants ultimately. Yeah. She wants somebody to take care of her, not intellectually,
She
or
wants somebody that they can take care of each other.
Yes, yeah, right. Yeah, and where with him, he lied to her, his own daughter, and I think that was his biggest wrong in her mind.
It's a good way to see it, because you typically hear women, will eventually go for somebody that reminds them of their dad. Yeah. Men go with somebody that reminds them of their mom and all that kind of stuff. And
I went somebody who reminds me of my brother, apparently.
And that's true in some aspects of this movie, but because he's honest, he's a stand-up guy, he's reliable. You can tell he's trying to be a responsible person and everything, which is what her dad is. But he's also very honest about not having a plan. I'll go where I go. I just know who I am. That type of thing. And so yeah, the fact that now that she's been with this guy, and she's waking up to the world, she's starting to see that some things with that how her dad had her locked down like she was isn't the best, because now she's had a taste of it, and she's even more miserable now not having it.
Yeah,
because eventually
all she wants is honesty.
Yeah,
that's what she wants. She wants, the problem with that though is all she wants is honesty from everybody around her. But the biggest problem is she will not give honesty to everyone else around her. Meaning that, when he says, I love you, things like that, she okay, kind of thing like that. She just really wasn't honest with herself at the beginning in a way. And I think she gets a lot of that
Lloyd
from her
said,
father.
I love you?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But like, she's not honest with herself, because then, she's just, with her father, she's very honest with her father. But her father twists her in ways that make her not be honest with herself. Like, it's wanting to go to England, wanting to get the scholarship. You can tell that he had a lot of input in this, where to go, and want to go to the best schools. And, you can't go out because you got to deal with this person. You got to do with this class. You got to get good grades, whatever. But, she wasn't honest with herself until she met Lloyd, who is full of honesty, And so I felt like he was able to draw that honesty out of her and pull her away from being more like her father and being more like herself.
Yeah. She, partway through this movie, her dad basically gives her this whole speech that makes her feel guilty for being with Lloyd. And then at the very end of it, kind of poo-poos it away and says, oh, do what's right. Do what you, whatever you do, I'll is the right decision. And that's a huge form of manipulation, because you go through this whole spiel of don't do this, blah, 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 blah. But then at the end you say, you know what? And you're trying to make the person think, oh, it's okay, do what you want to do. But now you've just convinced them through this whole speech you've had to drop it. It's very manipulative.
Okay, so since we pretty much jumped around quite a bit on this episode,
I know it's frustrating as hell for me.
We can bring up anything.
No, I know.
We can bring up anything.
Or say anything.
I'm about to say anything. I'm about to say anything. Now, okay, we've got to talk about the greatest scene, in my opinion, in any movie.
I thought we were going to leave that till last.
No, because it's not at the
Very
very end.
but they haven't broken up yet. Okay.
Okay.
So as of the dad's like, you got to do all this.
Spoilers?
And she's like, so anyway, she finally gets with him, and she got that letter from him. And it was just a simple note. They had a great night and everything. And he even told his friends what it was. And they're like, that's perfect. I've never gotten a letter like that. And it only says a couple things. It says, if you ever need anything, I'm here for you.
Did you feel underwhelmed by this letter in a way? Not by what it said, but the fact that, it almost seemed like it was supposed to be an important part of the movie. And then you're like,
I thought it was perfect.
Okay, whatever.
I thought it was perfect because it was very simple, which is, it seems that's what Lloyd is. He's just a simple guy and everything. I mean, on the surface at least, Diane doesn't need a huge thing. She's never been wooed, and she's never had poems. People have been too intimidated to talk to her and everything. So this fact that it's just this simple thing, if you ever need anything, I'm here for you, love Lloyd, or whatever it said, something close to that. It's and even the girls were like, oh my God, I've never gotten a letter like that. Just something simple, because most guys don't do that. They don't write letters.
Right, but I kind of felt like I wanted the letter to be the thing that pulled her back to him. But it didn't. It wasn't.
Well, no, because they were already together at that point. They were chilling and everything. But then it was after that. He thought it was the letter. He thought it was the letter that broke him up, but it wasn't. It was the conversation that she had with her dad.
Well, I think a lot of it was the conversation she had with her dad, and I felt like the way she felt was she needed Lloyd. She needed him because he was her rock.
I think she got drunk off of the worldliness that he's bringing to her, the fun that she could have, and not being so stifling in her life and everything. And as her dad was talking to her about that things, it sobered her up back to where she was set at the beginning of this movie, where it was like, oh my God, I got all this other stuff I got to do. And she's like, I have all these responsibilities. I felt like it kind of sobered her up a little bit to that. She was a little love drunk or whatever. Yeah. And now she's a little sobered up now. Like, I can't be doing this. And then that scene, that might, there's a couple different things that you could say it's your favorite scene, but you really feel for Lloyd when he's like, you just broke up with me. Yeah. Because he's like, wait, did you just break up with me? And they're talking and everything, and then she says something, and he goes, you just broke up with me.
Wait a minute. What did we just decide?
We decided...
Because I'm worried. Did you just break up with me?
No.
It sounded like you did.
No, we decided that we're friends. I mean, I know it's a terrible word.
Well, if we're friends, why can't we see each other?
I think that we should stop going out on dates.
Oh. I feel like a dick. You must think I'm a dick.
No, I don't. I don't.
Yeah, you do.
Lloyd, we shared the most intimate thing two people can share.
I shared it with a dick.
No, I didn't.
It's because you're dad.
No.
You talked to Corey?
Why? Did you tell Corey what happened?
Well, she figured it out. I'm sorry if that upsets you, but...
No, that's fine. She'll tell everybody, but that's fine.
Did you tell anybody?
Just my dad.
You told your dad?
You have Corey in D.C. I have my dad.
What? I'm sorry I said that. Forget I said it. I said what I thought I meant, but...
Lloyd,
forget it.
I love you, okay?
What is that? What are you doing with your hands? Talk to me. One party and you're talking like that girl Sheila.
Don't be mean. This is hard for me, too.
Don't do it.
Would you just take this pen, please, and write me?
I don't believe this. You just broke up with me.
But again, talking to a character like Lloyd who is so blatantly honest about anything and everything, that to kind of beat around the bushes on giving him the response of breaking up.
How many bushes?
There's quite a few.
Okay.
But I mean, the fact that instead of just coming out and saying, hey, I've pulled too far away from, where I want to go in life, not who I want to be. Remember, I think in a way, having that conversation with her dad kind of put it more in perspective in who she wanted to be.
Yeah.
That conversation had put it more in, not because, at that point she was just like, not even so much pumped about when she was with Lloyd, especially, but she wasn't pumped about going to school, going off to, her dreams that she's had for however many years. She wanted to be with Lloyd, and so I think when she was with Lloyd, she got to see who she wanted to be in life. Where when she was with her father, it was all goal oriented towards academics. It's
all about Lloyd popping that bubble that she had been in for years that she didn't get to experience. It's not about just not the real world, because obviously she lived in the real world, but she didn't get to experience anything. She didn't allow herself to experience anything. So
and that's why I'm saying you got two protagonists in this movie. You got Diane and Lloyd, and then the only antagonist in this movie is the father, and that's why these are the three main core characters in the movie.
And then obviously he goes and drives out in the rain, and he's on a phone booth when it's pouring down rain.
That was awesome.
And he's talking to his sister, and he says, "I gave my heart, and she gave me a pen," because it was a suggestion from her dad saying, give him this pen. So tell him to write you and everything.
Do you think it's because of his eccentricness as an actor that he didn't just shut the phone booth door when it was raining outside?
I don't know, because later on he says, "Rain has baptized my car," or the rain on my car is a baptism. Yeah. So I think he felt like he needed to, sometimes when you're miserable, you want to feel miserable. You want to listen to sad songs or terrible songs.
Everybody gets in that. Yeah.
You want to be out in the rain or whatever it is. I think that had something to do with it. And obviously there's probably a little bit of Hollywood to it, but it still felt real, And then she's like, why don't you come home? And he's like, oh, I'll be there later and everything. And he starts driving around with his little tape recorder talking to himself. I know he's talking to...
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of cool that he called his sister. He didn't call one of his friends.
Yeah, she raised him.
Yeah, but it's like, he had talked to them about everything. Even when they did the deed.
It's probably embarrassing.
You think maybe it was an embarrassing
There's
thing?
probably he doesn't seem like the guy who would get embarrassed, especially not in front of his friends. But it's probably not like he's just told everybody he started this romance with her, and they were together for what, maybe a week or two, and then
that was very very vague about what the time period was there. Yeah, I was getting kind of confused there.
Yeah, it could have been the whole summer, or it could have just been a week or something like that.
Or it could have been the fact that they kind of warned him with her. They're saying that she wouldn't be a good fit, so maybe he didn't want to be like getting the hearing the "I told you so." That's why I called his sister.
I was thinking it was longer because of the dad was being investigated, but I think at the beginning of the movie, that's when the investigation was wrapping up and they were about to arrest him, and that's when they started coming to his house.
Did you notice when he was wearing his prison uniform, the dad, his hair was like really white?
He went to like Frasier status.
Yeah. Like his hair was extremely light colored. Maybe it was the sun or something, but that's kind of another thing. I was like, well, has there been some time that's passed here, or that end? That's the only thing that I was kind of confused, and it was a little bit of that with Almost Famous too. I noticed with Cameron Crowe, where it's very hard to determine time periods and how long things were taking.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like that in this movie was like that too.
And while he's going through that breakup crap, the dad, in a typical movie, you'd see them eventually warm up to the son, or the son. The daughter's boyfriend or whatever.
Right.
It never happens in this movie. Up to the very end, he is defiant in her being with Lloyd.
Especially when he's pretty much a stand-up dude too.
He is. He's a great. You couldn't ask. I mean, obviously everybody wants their children to be with successful people that'll help take care of them and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, you couldn't ask for really a better person, but he was just so adamant that she needed to do her own thing.
Yeah.
And maybe that was because of his issues and with his wife and him doing his own thing and all that kind of stuff. Either way, he goes to buy that luggage and all his cards get declined. It's such a great scene when he goes home and he gets in the bathtub. It just cuts to a clip of him in the bathtub, and he looks absolutely terrified, and he's cowering in the bathtub because he knows it's about to go on. And even though he knows that, after he gets out of the bathtub, he's in misery. He's just waiting for it. I feel like he's just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, waiting for the other shoe to drop,
for the arrest to come and all that. He knows it's going to happen. He's going to keep denying it, but he knows it's going to happen, and that's when you start to realize. Because at the beginning you're like, well, maybe he didn't do anything. He's very confident in that, and when he's talking with the older people there, you could tell he cares about him and everything. So you're like, maybe he didn't do it. And so you think that maybe there's a little bit of redemption.
I didn't think he did it. I thought maybe it was like some tax fraud. When I first watched the movie, I was like, oh, maybe he just didn't pay his taxes, here and there. But But the reality of the situation was a lot more dire than I thought it was. That I thought it was going to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what he really did was pretty bad. Really bad.
Stealing from all the old people.
Yeah, and from their families.
Dad, did you do it? Did you take that money?
Sweetheart, no, don't be ridiculous.
Swear to God. I need to know the truth.
Honey,
I swear to God.
I swear to God.
I found the money.
Honey, it's not what you think.
What am I supposed to think?
Honey, about what?
You stole from them. You lied to me. How do you think that's supposed to make me feel?
You think you know what this money is?
Yes,
No, you don't know what it is. It's not for me. This money's for you, for when you come back from England with honors, to set you up so you never have to depend on anybody again. Diane, I take better care of those people than their families do. I care for them. I give them flowers. I feed them. I wipe their mouths.
No, but you stole from them.
I make their lives better.
You let me defend you. And you knew you were guilty, and you let me become a part of it. God, how could...
All right, go ahead. When I'm old, give me someone like me, but go ahead.
I trusted you. I stood up in court 5 years ago, and I picked you.
Why are you being so hateful to me? Is this because of Lloyd?
No, I told you everything, and you lied to me. I would have done anything for you.
That's right. Work it out.
No, I will. I don't want to leave something out because I know I can say anything to you. You're a liar and a thief.
Take it easy. How bad you make me. I'm the only dad you've got.
When Ione Skye took the part, she said it was hard for her to play it because she said she's so opposite from Diane Court. She's like, I'm not a brainiac. I didn't get good grades. You know, I'm not obsessed with schooling and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't obsessed with my future. But she also didn't see anything wrong. She didn't see much wrong with what he was doing. It was like she said, yeah, these people don't get any kind of communication with their families.
Yeah, he said, I take better care of them.
They're taken better care of than they would be with their families, and he's taking a little off the top from that. Now, obviously, we know that's bad, and we know it's wrong and illegal and everything, but when she first did it, she's like, I don't know why my character would be upset at this. She's like, obviously, I understand that it's a bad thing. She goes, I just have to get there mentally.
Well, we stated why it was bad. It wasn't so much, I mean, it's bad what he did, but the fact that he lied to her, you know, so blatantly for so long for a reason, you know, basically saying that he's giving her all that money. But, you know, okay, I see that, I guess, for the last maybe 4 years, but for the entire time that he was working there, you know, he'd been doing it for 17 years.
And you have to think of Diane's reaction too, because he loves his daughter, and that's completely clear. Yeah. Like it's
without a doubt.
Yeah, there's nothing shady going on towards it. He loves his daughter. And he did this for her. Like all the money that he had taken off the top and saved, it was for her to buy a house when she gets back to the States from England, so she doesn't have to worry about starting.
And he buys her a car.
He doesn't have to worry about starting a new life or whatever. But you know, on the surface, he's probably taking better care of those people than their families, but it's still stealing, and he's justifying it.
And she's got a car and a ring from this stolen money, you know, so it's like receiving stolen property in a way.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. And when you see it from Diane's point of view, you know, she chews him out. You know, he switched the subject, blaming Lloyd. Is this because of Lloyd? This type of thing, you know. So he's real shady about like oh, you know, whenever she's trying to chew him, you know, he's trying to blame Lloyd and everything and messing with her head again. He's become an expert on how to manipulate her because. And I want to get into this, but we can do the boombox thing. But you know, it's interesting because you know. She's now involved in it because now she feels like it's her fault because he was doing all this embezzling for her. She feels like now that she's stolen the money. But before all that, obviously they're broken up, and she's gone back to, well, not gone back, but now she's miserable because she's back to her old life. Yeah. But now she's had a taste of the real life of being with somebody and caring about somebody, and now she doesn't have it anymore. And so she's miserable. He is miserable. And he's like, all right, I'm going to let it go. He even calls her and said, can you destroy the letter? It hurts me to know that it's out there in the world somewhere, that type of thing. And he can't figure out, because obviously before this they had sex, and this song called In Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel was playing. And so in that scene, when he has nothing else to do, when he has nothing else, no other options, he does the only thing he can do, which is play that song outside her window. Yeah. When one of the most iconic scenes of all of Hollywood history is this scene of John Cusack holding the boombox outside of Ione Skye's or Diane Court's window, and it plays In Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel. Now, that was playing when they hooked up, but in that scene, you remember he was trembling.
Yeah.
Are you shaking?
No.
You're shaking.
I don't think so.
You're cold.
I don't think I am.
Then why are you shaking?
I don't know. I think I'm happy.
Here's some blanket. Listen to this song. It's a really good song.
He's shaking because he's so happy and everything. And she even said, listen to this song. This song is so great and everything. Let's just listen to it. And so those two things, the fact that that it's one of these rare things that he's found out about her, because remember, there's not much to her. It's all been about schoolwork. Yeah. So she doesn't listen to a lot of music. She doesn't do this or that and everything. But it's one of these rare things, this bits of information that he gets about her. Oh, she likes this song. Yeah. I got to keep this. I got to keep this and hold this information like it's precious, because I don't know a lot about. There's not a lot about her. There's not a lot to her or whatever. And so that, and the fact that he was so happy during that moment. Those are the two reasons I think. I think it goes beyond them it just being the song that was playing when they were having sex. But I think that's why he played that boombox scene.
And just to see his determination on his face, and you can go into the background behind that scene, but he that look in his eyes, it was just he was determined. He was frustrated. I mean, it showed so many different emotions in his face in that scene alone, and that's why. John Cusack's. That's another reason why John Cusack's such a great actor, because it just showed so much in that scene. Now, go ahead and tell him the background about it.
Well, yeah, the look of defiance, determination, and everything. I mean, they shot that scene quite a few times. It just wasn't working. They actually shot it in a different location, like in a neighborhood setting. It looked like, because this one was filmed kind of like on a dirt road.
It doesn't look like in front of their house,
right?
No.
But they did shoot one that looked like their neighborhood, and that didn't look right. They shot at that place where it ended up being the final shot came from, and he tried sitting on his car and all this kind of stuff, but nothing was working, and Cusack was actually getting pissed about it. Like he didn't think it was going to work with it and all that. And finally, camera crew was like, look, let's, they were losing the light. That's why it's so low light and everything. Look, let's try one more time. And so they shot the scene, and as it slowly zoomed into John Cusack, they say what you can see is the pissed off look on John Cusack's face that this isn't going to work. It's a look of defiance. I don't want to do this scene. It's holding it up, and he has this look like it's not going to work or whatever. But that's what you need from Lloyd in that moment, because this is his last desperate ditch attempt to get.
He's called her 7 times already,
right, and to get her attention, to get some kind of communication. The last thing to reach out before she goes off to England and out of his world forever. Yeah. How is he going to do this? And so it has that, that look of defiance, that look of determination. It's that last look of, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm doing it anyways. Yeah. That's like what was going through John Cusack's head. That's probably what was going through Lloyd's head. So when you look at that, that was the last take of that scene, and that's the one that they ended up using in the movie. So when you see that look, just know that's John Cusack being pissed off that he has to do this scene because he didn't think it was going to work, much less go down in history as one of the most iconic scenes in any movie, much less romance movies.
Especially the music to go along with it too. I mean, it was
that triangle and the tribal beats,
and we sit there and the lighting and everything is perfect for it. Like the sun's going down, sun's almost pretty much down, but it's just the look of it. He's wearing that trench coat, which is very iconic as well in this movie, at least.
Well, it became a scene that they almost cut, and excuse me, it was a scene that they almost cut, and it ended up being what they put on all the posters and everything, is this dude in his trench coat holding up a boombox and everything. So it wasn't supposed to work, but it became such an iconic scene that now it's on all the promotional material for it. Even though the original poster was them laughing in the car, they had to put a little screen grab of him in the bottom corner of him holding up a boombox.
And most people that don't watch this movie often or have watched it, they're going to tell you that is the most iconic scene in the movie.
And it's a token of what Cusack and Cameron Crowe said was like the mantra of the film, which is this quote: "Optimism is as a revolutionary act."
Yeah.
So it's optimism, but you're using it as this revolutionary act where you're going to take charge, you're going to change things, you're going to do all these different things. Man, I got some indigestion today, but that's what goes into the scene.
Yeah.
That's what goes into the scene is that mantra they had, the optimism as a revolutionary act. I don't know how much optimism he had, Lloyd had, by the time where he had nothing else to give except for holding up a boombox.
Because he pretty much gave up. He gave up at a point, and there at the end.
He
and
did after this part.
He's like, I don't know who that is. I don't know who Diane Court. I mean, he did everything in his power.
Well, she even said, she's like, I don't want to hurt you anymore. And he goes, don't worry, you can't hurt me anymore.
Yeah, and so he probably wasn't over it. I mean, obviously he wasn't over it.
No, definitely.
But he had started to get over it. Like he was starting to get to a point where he could start to get over it. He wasn't actually getting over it, but he was starting to find a way to get over it. And that's just basically forgetting that this person existed, and then one of the craziest scenes in there, is when she just realizes that her world is falling apart. Her dad's probably going to go to jail. Her dad's in a lot of trouble. She wants that back. She wants that life back, and so she, the thing that she does is she goes to her protector. She goes to the one person that showed her what her life could be,
right. And that's Lloyd, and I would disagree on that point. I would say I don't think that he has accepted it. I think he has accepted that she's done with him, and only because he didn't think he had a shot in the first place. So in his mind, it's kind of, well, of course she dumped me.
Yeah.
There's, why wouldn't she dump me? Like, he didn't blame her for, obviously he was pissed about it and everything.
Yeah.
And he knew it was her dad and everything.
But he asked her, he said, is it your dad?
Exactly.
He's like, she never really gave him a reason for it. She said, I'm busy, I got to do this and that, but she was busy before. So in a sense, she didn't, then that's probably made it worse for him because, she didn't really give him a full on reason why she's doing, breaking his world, in a way. And so I think that's what made it harsher for him because he didn't know why she was, destroying everything that he cared about, up to that point.
Yeah. Can't remember what I was saying.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I don't know. So, anyways, let's see. Diane Cheese Mouse. I already did that one. Yeah, I completely lost my train of thought. What was I saying before that? I can't remember. So one thing I wanted to talk about was the phrase "say anything." So obviously it's the title of the movie, but it's said twice in this movie. The first time it's said is by the dad, and he's saying, you can say anything to me. And it started out as an endearing statement of trust between the two. You can say anything to me. And at the end, when she says, I can say anything to you, it's now she's pissed at him. Yeah. You know, and I can't remember if it's that last fight that they had.
She does get pretty petty at the end.
In the jail or whatever. But she throws it in his face and being able to say how betrayed she feels. Like say, before it was the trust between the two. You can tell me anything. Now it's, I'm going to tell you, I can tell you anything. I'm going to tell you how you betrayed me. You know, you say I can say anything. You know, it's throwing it in his face, being able to say how betrayed she feels, as her naivety relied on her leaning on him to tell her what's what. You know, meeting Lloyd has now changed Say Anything from something that imprisoned her in her naivety to something that frees her for the first time in her life. And the person this is tacking on to what you just said. Now that she's freed for the first time in her life, she's broken up with Lloyd. What's the first person she runs to?
Her father.
No, it's Lloyd.
After
they fight. No. So you know that saying, you can say anything to me. It's getting her to tell him everything, so he knows everything about her life better to control it. Now she's saying, I can tell you anything. This is now, it's switched to trust. Now I'm going to tell you how betrayed I feel, and so it's changed that. Now she's free to be able to say anything to him, to say how she truly feels. She's free for the first time in her life, and the person she runs to in her freedom is Lloyd.
Yeah.
And he wants nothing to do with her. Now, did you notice at the end they started, really going heavy on the makeup with her?
Yeah.
Right under her eyes, they made it real purple, like she hadn't had any sleep and everything.
Yeah.
Like when she came to him in that boxing studio and he pushed her away and everything, she looked like she had been
through the ringer.
Yeah, she looked like she was a mess. You know, it's like she had, like I said, she had the dark circles under her eyes and everything like that. I mean, obviously, it's Ione Skye. She's still beautiful.
Yeah.
And everything. But, I mean, you could tell just that little, and the look on her face where she's just worn out and she's just tired and all this kind of stuff. You know, it's such great acting. It's such great realism for this movie, and it's such a great delivery and a great direction by Cameron Crowe. I can't really think of a romance movie that really beats this one. Besides maybe Eternal Sunshine, that's one of my favorites. So that's another kind of that one's way out there and everything.
It gives you kind of that Eternal Sunshine kind of gives you a little bit of uneasiness by the end. I mean, you know that you know what's happening, but it's uneasiness.
You mean as far as what the future holds?
Yeah, and where with this one, you kind of look at it like, okay, I think they're going to be all right. You know, I mean, they went through some of the hardest things that a couple could go through right at the beginning. You know what I mean? Right at the get-go. And I mean, the fact that he chooses at the end of the movie to go with her, even though her dad is trying to basically say, you know, still try to run her life from prison, you know, and lying to her and everything else, is still trying to run her life.
Yeah.
And he's still trying to make decisions for her. And, you know, Lloyd's just like, man, I think I'm going to go to England. I don't care what you say, basically.
Yeah, man. Like, he was so pissed that he's like, it's not fair. And I get it. I mean, obviously what he did was wrong and everything.
Yeah.
And you gotta own up to your punishment and everything. But I felt kind of sad because he was like, you know, all the work that I've put in to help Diane get to where she's at, and I have to have you now as a go-between.
Yeah.
Like, I get that as a father. Like I would hope that I would never do anything shady. I mean, but then again, I'd like to think I'd do anything for my daughter. You know,
absolutely.
I'd do anything for my son and everything. So, it kind of hits you, I think, as a parent. It's kind of maybe what Ione Skye was talking about. It's like, I don't see why. Like, obviously, I know what he did wrong, but like, am I mad at it? I'm not really mad at it.
But like I was saying earlier, she's not mad so much of what he did as much as she is mad about
being dishonest,
and manipulating her. And she realized that at the end. You know, you could tell she kind of started to see it the more time she spent with Lloyd, how much her father was manipulating her. And then at the end, she saw it all. You know, she saw it all. She saw what he had been doing, and and the way he had been really kind of trying to run her life, instead of letting her run her own life.
Yeah, and a lot of his anger, the dad's anger throughout this movie, because he seemed like a pretty pleasant guy. He seemed like he was okay with Lloyd, until he realized that he was, she wanted to not go to England or whatever.
Yeah.
But, he
almost replacing the father in a way,
Right, but once he started feeling the walls closing in, he was angry from then on out because he knew he was guilty and everything. So, did you see the similarities between this and The Graduate at the very end?
Yeah.
You remember The Graduate? With
Yeah.
Dustin Hoffman?
Yeah.
Remember how he breaks up the wedding and she runs out with him and they get on the bus together and they're in the back of the bus and it's driving and it ends on the shot of them going together.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with Say Anything. They're in the plane. It just ends on a shot of them looking up at the light waiting for it to go off. Now, the difference between those is The Graduate, you could start to see something wash over their faces where they're like, oh, what have we done? Was this the right idea? So it's like the difference between this and The Graduate, those two were waiting for something unknown.
Yeah.
And they didn't know if it was going to work out or did we do the right thing. Whereas Diane Court and Lloyd Dobler, they're waiting for the unknown to pass so they can move.
Yeah.
They can move on. The Graduate, their unknown may be years. This unknown is only 5 minutes because Lloyd said the worst things in plane accidents and stuff usually happen within the first 5 minutes.
I don't know how much of that is right.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, like the most dangerous parts of flying are taking off and landing.
Oh, well,
you're
that
trying
makes
to
sense.
get into the sky and then you're basically a controlled crash is what landing is. So I mean, if you think about it, just leveling off. I mean, that's pretty much the easiest part of flying and everything. But did you like this movie? I have to ask you because I always ask you. Did you like this movie?
This is my favorite movie.
It's your favorite movie of all time,
Of
or
all
favorite
time.
romance, or what?
Of all time.
Really?
Of all
I'm glad
time.
we got to do your favorite movie of all
Oh,
time.
absolutely.
What's your favorite part? One more time.
I mean, the boombox scene is just amazing, but I'd have to say when he's out there bowing and her father is having an honest moment with her and basically telling her, "Hey, you didn't mess up. Just look outside."
Yeah, like oh, did I? Well, it doesn't seem like
he
it
didn't
affected
have to
him
do
really.
that, and that's the thing. He did not have to do that. If he didn't want her to be involved because he didn't want her to be involved because he knew that would get in the way of their plans, not
and
her plans.
A
their
typical
plans.
movie would have like a disapproving look from the father or something, but they smile.
It was
and
a
laugh
real
together.
moment. Yeah,
and there's no lingering shot of when she walks away and his face changes or anything.
Yeah.
It's just they smile because they're like, oh, she's smiling because look at Lloyd, and he's smiling because he's like, oh,
he's happy for her.
This is what somebody thinks of my daughter.
Yes. And that's my favorite scene, and her smile on it just kind of made it that much better, because she realized that she didn't mess up and that he's an honest, good guy,
Yeah. Who are the standouts in this movie, you think?
I'd have to say the father. And I can't say Joan because she just wasn't that big of a standout. I mean, it's got to be
a good part, but I mean, she was unbilled for a reason.
Yeah, the father was definitely up there. I mean, I like John Cusack, so I'm gonna like his performance better.
And you're used to seeing John Mahoney like in his Frasier role, where he's a nice guy and everything, but
he's sarcastic and all that funny stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the standout for me, Ione Skye, she's just, one, absolutely gorgeous, and two, she brought a lot of naivety to this role. There's some of it where you could look at it and be like, is she just inexperienced and not very good, or is she just naive? And I think that there's enough in this movie to show that there's maybe a slight bit of an experience issue, but a lot of it is her acting, especially when she says, how she is in real life and everything.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think Ione Skye and obviously John Cusack. I mean, this is where John Cusack
made his bones.
Yeah, like I believe that the first John Cusack movie is Grosse Pointe Blank.
Okay.
That's like the first John Cusack movie.
Yeah.
But this is the first one where I think people, he had Better Off Dead and a couple other things, but this is where people really took notice of him. And I think because it wasn't too long after this that he did Grosse Pointe Blank and then all of his plethora of other movies and everything. But this one, I think, is what set him up as, okay, here's a legitimate star. Everybody knew that this is the last teen movie he wanted to do and stuff, and so now he could move on from this point.
Yeah, and it just, again, it's my favorite movie, but it's also my favorite John Cusack movie. So,
do you like Lily Tomlin?
I always remember her from
The Haunting.
No, from what did I watch recently with her? Oh,
she was
Conjuring.
She was in another John Cusack movie. She played one of his exes in High Fidelity.
Yeah.
Lily Tomlin did.
She's the one that always talking about Joe, right? Yeah. So she was in The Conjuring. She was the mother in The Conjuring,
and she was also in The Haunting about that.
Yes,
the Hill House or whatever.
Yeah.
There's House on Haunted Hill, and then there's The Haunting, and she was in The Haunting. But I think it was about that Hill House.
I think I like her more as an older actress.
Liam Neeson was in that movie too.
Yeah. And so was Catherine Zeta-Jones.
That's right. I remember. That's like the first time I remember seeing Liam Neeson and Lily Tomlin. I think were in The Haunting. Oh no, Darkman. Yeah, Liam Neeson was in Darkman.
That's right. Oh man, Darkman was awesome.
I know, we need to do Darkman, not the terrible sequels. But the sequels had Arnold Vosloo from The Mummy.
Yeah.
He played Darkman and all the sequels afterwards. But it was Liam Neeson.
He got dark after that.
He was the OG.
Yeah.
Still the same villain and everything. Who was the female lead in that Darkman? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
We have to watch that again.
Yep, definitely.
We're also doing. I also want to do a couple others like City Slickers. I don't know if you want to do that, but doing Lonesome Dove with Dad. Yeah, I was like, man, I want to watch City Slickers again.
I haven't seen City Slickers in so long.
And I was like, it's another Cattle Drive movie. That's a really good movie, but a good couple of movies. I just remember watching that when we were younger. There was something else I can't remember, but anyways, we got a general sense of the types of movies and a few others that we want to do this season. We're going to get together here in the next couple weeks and try to bang out a schedule just so we know which movies we want to do. We can set those up. I think that we had talked about wanting to do more theme months and everything to where we typically do. I think that works good for us too. I think it works good because we kind of get into a groove when we start talking about Adam Sandler movies, when we talk about late 90s teen movies, different things like that. So do more of those. Of course, we'll have our one-offs a bunch, too, because we have a lot of other movies we want to talk about. But I'm pretty excited to get into the season. And hopefully we might, towards the end of this season, start adding some video aspects to it. Maybe get a Patreon, get, people who want to sign on that. They can, we'll post our video portions there and everything. So do you have anything else to say about this movie?
It's phenomenal. That's it.
I actually love a Peter Gabriel song more than this one. It's called Book of Love.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And do you remember what that played on? A show that you and I really like?
40-Year-Old Virgin?
No, a show that you and I really like. Come on. Small. Medical show.
Oh, House.
Scrubs.
Okay.
The season finale.
The
the series finale until they rebooted it or brought it back the next.
I used to have a few of the soundtracks, and it did have Peter Gabriel on there.
But what they intended to be the series finale, even though it came back for a season and a half after that or whatever,
was ridiculous.
Because ABC bought it or whatever. But the intended season finale showed him walking down the hallway of the hospital in the Scrubs. And he was saying goodbye to all the guest stars that you had seen, throughout it. And then he gets to the outside where usually they have that parking lot, but there's like a sheet hung, and they're playing like home movies.
Yeah.
With like little camcorders or whatever, but it's of the future.
Yeah.
Of Turk and Carla having kids, and JD and Elliot getting married and having kids and having Dr. Cox over and all this kind of stuff. But the whole time it's playing the Book of Love.
Yeah.
By Peter. Oh man, it's such a good song.
Are you going to listen to it after we get off?
Probably. It was always in your eyes before I heard that song.
In your eyes,
the light, the heat.
Your eyes,
I'm incomplete.
Your eyes,
I can't remember the rest.
In your eyes.
If you guys want to get a hold of us, we're on all social media at The Post Credit Podcast, except for Twitter. We're at The Post Credit. Our email address is thepostcreditpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website. It's www.thepostcreditpodcast.com. And we're also on YouTube. If you don't have anything else to say,
throw me a bone.
We appreciate you guys listening. We'll see you next time.
Let me do it again.